Hi and welcome again to this new video on the HCBP channel, your HR resource of information if you're an HR department of one, an SME, or you just started your career in HR. Now today's video is going to be very important for you if you're the one responsible for submitting the budget assumptions for staff costs in your organization. When we talk about submitting your budget as an HR professional, the workforce budget, there are certain things that we need to take into consideration. First off, we need to differentiate between what is deemed as a total employee salary and what is the actual cost to company for that employee. These are two very different things because the former refers only to what the employee gets at the end of the month into their salary, or the end of the week, or whatever it is the agreed time frame to give the employee their salary. So this is only the cost that we can see. And when we talk about the cost to company, we talk about all the other elements that are not paid directly to the employee, but nonetheless are paid by the company to the employee. Such expenses could be medical insurance and other things. So we'll get a bit into details of what such expenses are. Now, first and foremost, when we want to budget our staff cost, we need to take into consideration that we need to be very careful and detailed and not to over assume the cost and hike the cost because this has a negative impact on our P&L, and at the same time not underestimate the cost. This is very important. So if we start with the employee's basic wage, usually every employee has a basic wage and allowances. This differs from one company to another. There are countries like Oman where you need to have specific allowances per employee. So depending on how your salary structure is, you have the total employee compensation, which is their basic wage plus any allowances. This could be a transportation allowance, this could be a housing allowance, this could be any other allowances that you pay as per your company's policy. We need to think in line of any other benefits that we give to employees that are not given necessarily to employees in their monthly salary. Such benefits could be anything from family benefits like family medical insurance, life insurance, schooling, all these things. Could be employee personal benefits like coverage of tuition fees on behalf of the employee. So these sort of benefits. So all such benefits that we have, we need to factor in as part of the cost of that particular employee. Moving on to bonuses or incentives. You might suggest that why are we including this in the employee cost? Because this pays for itself kind of from sales if they're direct sales employees. However, not all employees are direct sales, that's one. Number two, even if your employee is a direct sales and that's attached to his sales scheme, it's good to give a projection or an assumption of what could be potentially an incentive for this particular employee. Moving on to things like the visa cost. How much did the employee cost you as a visa? How much will he cost you in the future to renew the visa? This is again part of the costs that you need to capture as part of your employee costs. What about their family? Is their family covered also by a visa under the company, or that the employee sponsorship? Do we pay back to the employee? Again, these costs need to be captured. One other thing you want to consider is gratuity, which is something very common for expats here in the GCC, or pension schemes for nationals. Now, these are two very different calculations, and you would need to go back to the regulations for your respective country in the GCC to see what is the calculation of pension, what's your contribution as an employer, what's the contribution as an employee. We're not very much bothered with the employee contribution at this point in time. We're more focused on the employer's contribution to the pension scheme. In terms of gratuity, again, we need to make sure that we're following the labor law. What it says, some labor laws differentiate between from 1 to 2 years. Below 1 year, maybe there's no gratuity. from 2 to 5 years. What's the calculation? 5 years and above. So all these things you need to take into consideration, and you need to capture in the right way in your calculations to get as much as possible the right employee cost. One other thing you might not think of is the welfare. Definitely you must be taking your employees to some kind of events like lunches, dinners, days out, retreats. All of these costs should be part of a welfare fund. And this welfare fund, if you want to capture it as a percentage of an employee's wage or as a fixed amount per employee, this is again up to you, but this is also something that you need to capture as part of your employee cost. One other cost that you might not be having is your learning and development cost. For learning and development, there is no set standard in the region in terms of how companies follow that. I've seen companies that follow 1% of the total sale, the gross revenue of the year. I've seen companies that follow 1% of the staff cost and say that this is what we want, all the way up to 6% if it's a learning organization. And again, I wouldn't say that there's a best practice here. I think it should make sense with your revenue and your company's size and your company's revenue size. So you don't want to overinflate it, you don't want to kill it as well. This is a very important cost to capture. One other cost that you might want to consider as well is the merit increase. If you have a set merit increase assumption that you follow, be it a 2% or 5%, whatever, per employee per year, this is a cost you might want to factor in as well. Now, such cost would be a cost that you will probably have a phasing for. I'll save phasing to another video, because now we're just talking about expenses. But again, merit pay could be part of your costs, your employee costs. And as I mentioned, we will talk about how we phase that later. And one other very important component for you to consider is a miscellaneous cost that you just plug in there. Why would you want to do that? Now remember, we're basing everything we said, some of it is a fixed cost, some of it is assumptions. And things might happen throughout the year. There might be a new law that mandates you paying something extra for employees or on behalf of employees that you have no room to capture. So put in a field for a miscellaneous amount that you can determine. Again, how would you determine that? I would say based on how many anomalies you had in the previous years. So if you had like a lot of hidden costs here and there that you did not capture other than the costs we mentioned, probably it's a good assumption to give it like a 5% of the employee's wage. Or maybe if you pretty much covered everything, just give it like a 2-3%, just to be on the safe side. This is a cost again that you can use against any surprises that you might have throughout the year. That's about it for now. I don't want to get into further details. This video will be probably part of a series of videos where we discuss staff budgets and so on. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do like, subscribe, and share. And remember, if you're in doubt, I'm here to help you out. I'll see you in the next video.